Welcome to Real Estates. I am Trina Larmony, your host, and as always, I'm joined by Alexandria Pearl, our resident real estate expert. And I'm really excited today because we're going to talk about investing, and I've got an expert for that as well. Welcome, Gentille Chhun. She is a real estate investor here in our market, Las Vegas. And Gentille, I just want to ask right out of the box, I want to become a real estate investor. Where do I start?
Well, that's a great question. So the first step in real estate investing is you have to probably get a mentor, or a real estate agent, someone that knows exactly what they're doing and that can guide you and kind of babysit you through the whole process. So that would be the very, very first step.
Okay, that sounds right. Alex?
So, exactly. So I work with several investors, and typically when there's somebody new to kind of the real estate investing world, one of the first questions is how do I do it? And what do I need to think about? And so then I ask them in response, okay, well, let's talk about what kind of investing you're thinking about, because there's a lot of information out there and it can get overwhelming. So we really try and narrow down, especially for the first time. The person who's not experienced or doesn't make their livelihood quite yet, we ask, okay, well, what kind of investing do you want to do? Do you want to talk about purchasing a condo to start? Typically condos are less expensive, a little easier to handle. Do they, depending on how much money they have? That's the other question. Well, how much money do you have to invest? Let's talk about that.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you have to have a lot of money coming into this?
Not necessarily, but that would be the second step. Basically after you find your guidance or the person that's going to be your guidance counselor, then the second step is the money part, right? So you can either have cash or hard money loan is another way to get cash, but that's also a loan. Or you can go with like a traditional loan. Now your real estate agent can help you with this process as well, because more than likely your real estate agent is already working with some lenders, so they can point you in that direction. But honestly, as far as investment goes, cash is probably the best if you can come up with the cash, because there's a lot of properties that don't qualify for loans, especially if you're looking for a good investment or an investment that would yield you a larger percentage, right? So they don't qualify for loans usually. You have to buy it cash because of the repairs.
Right. I think I've seen something similar because you have a VA loan, and I know that having gotten a VA loan, there were certain criteria that to get a VA loan, the house had to be in X condition.
Absolutely.
Right. And just before that step, we have to decide, well, okay, is this something that you're going to buy and hold, renovate perhaps and flip, renovate and sell? Are you going to become a landlord so you can have a tenant? So those are the types of questions you decide, okay, well, what kind of investor am I going to be?
Yes.
Right? And then we decide, okay, if you have cash, what kind of financing are you going to get? Because depending on if you're going to go with a traditional lender, there are a different set of requirements that most people are familiar with versus maybe a hard money loan, which is a shorter amount of time, typically a higher interest rate, a little bit more risk.
Absolutely. What if I'm saying I want to be the type of investor that nets me the most money? What kind of investing is that?
We all want to do that.
I want that kind of investing.
Well, yeah, I think as an investor, though, that's exactly what you look for. It's always the numbers. How much can you buy that house for? How much will the repairs cost? And how much can you sell it for? And what period of time? So as an investor, you have to be very cautious of all these things and aware of all these things. And that's when you do your the numbers, before you even buy it.
Okay. Now, what I'm hearing you say is you want to weigh out what it's going to cost me to purchase it, repair it, sell it again. Now that sounds like one type of investment versus what you just said, which is someone who's going to now turn around and rent that property.
Be a landlord, right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Really, it comes down to the numbers, right? Yeah. Everything is based on a return of investment. So whether you're buying and selling, buying, flipping, selling, buying, flipping, holding, or becoming a landlord, there's still a return that you're looking for. And typically the minimum amount that an investor is looking to make, at least in my experience, nothing less than 7 or 8% at the low end. And then typically they look for at least a 10% return or higher.
But that's more on rental side.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
the
even
7-8%
yeah.
is more on rental side. As for me as an investor, and I do a lot of flips, my return can't be less than 10%.
Right.
Cannot be less than
Right.
10%. Usually it's about 20 to 40%.
Correct.
That's what I flip. Now I do have a lot of rentals as well that I just buy and hold, and
Right.
I'll hold it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But
Okay.
my return on investment on the rental is still minimum at least 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So you do both. You
Yes.
have some that you rent. You have some that you just want to turn and flip to get that ongoing money coming in.
Absolutely.
How has the pandemic affected you as far as is it a good time? I know that the market is a hot market for selling. We've talked about that a lot. So how has that affected you as an investor?
With it's not necessarily, it's not just the pandemic, but it's because it's a seller's market.
Right.
So regardless if there's a pandemic and what's
Right, right.
happened or not, I mean, usually if something like this happens, you would see the market being on the other side,
Yeah,
right?
you
Where
thought
it's
you might
bad.
get that
Yeah,
2008
yeah,
effect.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people were waiting for.
Absolutely.
You know?
A lot of
Yeah.
investors are waiting for that, or
Yes.
they're hoping that's going to happen. Now,
Right.
I'm both spectrum. I'm a buyer and a seller. So I like the market the way it is for the selling side, and I want to maximize on my properties if I actually do want to sell it, which I do have several on the market right now for sale. But on the flip side too, as a buyer, I'm waiting, right, to find the best deals, and I'm waiting for that little crash. So I'm kind of in between. So
Okay.
I'm not really wishing one way or another. I'm just kind of going with the flow. It has affected me. I mean, not too badly, because I have a lot of different types of properties that I have. I have a lot of land as well, which I, buy and hold for, 5, 10, 20 years.
So you were planning to do that anyway. It's not like you're losing out because nobody's buying your land. You weren't planning to sell it this year anyway.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now, before you make an investment of any type, you have to determine how much money do you have and how long can you hold on to something. Obviously, if you don't have enough money, then you can't make those investments, know?
Right.
So you always have to plan for the worst case scenario. So I have a couple rentals that are going through a little bit of a crisis, I suppose, because the tenants haven't paid for at least a couple months, and I know I can't kick them out until March.
Right.
But I'm very compassionate as a landlord, and
Right.
that's my problem. But at least I have enough money to still hold and help these people out,
Right,
if you
right.
will.
Which just on a side note, that is one of the questions that comes up for anybody who would be new to this. I have to advise them, right now, the way the laws are written, they do protect the tenants. So the landlord has to be careful, because it doesn't necessarily mean that the landlord is protected. The landlord still, if they have a loan on a property, they still need to pay on that loan.
Right.
So it can be a little bit imbalanced. So
Yes.
that's a great point. Something I
Absolutely.
advise them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, and for me personally, as an investor, like I said, I buy most of my properties cash. I think the only thing I have in loan is my primary.
Okay.
All these years. So it's always cash. And because of that, I guess I have a little more income to work with, so I'm okay during
Sure.
crises like like these.
Oh, well, it definitely sounds like if you can buy all your investments in cash, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but some people have to start with financing, and right now the interest rates are so low. So I actually have some investors who would typically pay cash,
Yeah.
but because it's so inexpensive right now to borrow money, their philosophy is, let me use the bank's money.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Okay.
so we are seeing, some properties that we're using financing, which is still okay. And again, for the person who's trying to break into the market, it's a great way to break in, again, because the interest rates are so low.
Yes. Okay.
So really what you want to look at is the type of property, right? The if you're going to buy and hold, what the renovations are going to cost you. You have to think about, so, okay, how long is it going to take me to perhaps pay off this loan if I'm going to hold it, or what is my return? What are the values of the properties around me? If it's a townhouse or a condo, what are the other ones selling for? Because most of the time you have to acquire a property below market value. Typically, is what you have to do in order to be able to be an investor who's going to be able to turn a profit, because most investors right now are purchasing these properties below market, renovating them, and then turning around and selling them above market, and it's slowly pushing the values of the properties up. So the trick is, right, you go in, you get a below market property, you renovate it, you sell it. Well, now that elevates the rest of the units around that property or the house.
Okay.
So it's just, you have to have a little bit more patience right now, especially because inventory is so low.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a numbers game. You have to look, you have to analyze your numbers, and then it's just a matter of making offers, and you know.
Okay.
If there are any
Yeah.
offers to make, though.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And also as an investor, you know, after obviously the getting the mentor, the real estate agent, and then the money part, then you have to find these properties.
Right.
And, you know, MLS is one thing, and your agent can probably help you with some of the properties, but there are a lot of other avenues that you can find these distressed properties or properties that are, you know, considered deals.
How
And
do you find them?
I go through, you know, auction.com. I go
Okay.
through trustee sale, for sale by owner sometimes.
No,
So
these
it's
are
a
things
lot of-
that are good for you to do though, because you're a cash investor. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the average person doesn't have access to that because they know they can't go and bid on a property and pay the note at the end of the day to get it, right?
Well, no, some of them, even on those sites, you can get a loan on it.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, cash is always better because there might be one or two properties that doesn't qualify for
Okay.
for a loan, right? Now your agent can help you with that, but the thing is, you have to know where to look, and your agent has to be familiar with also investment properties to be able to find those deals.
Okay.
Because once you find them, there's steps in acquiring them as well.
Okay.
And here's the trick, right? Everyone hears about how, you know, how easy it is, you know, how you find this distressed property and you go, but
I watch Flipper Flop,
I
girl.
know, right? But really
It's
the
not that
behind the
easy.
scenes, it's not that easy.
Okay.
You know, when you have, you know, a property that you have to go, it's a probate or it's a trustee. You'll see, you have to go to court on a specific court date with your cash, right? I mean, typically that's what she's saying with your cash, you know. So what I have to do as a real estate agent is advise my client, okay, you have to go to this trustee, you know, this court hearing. There may be other people there. They're going to bid possibly
geez.
on this property. So you have to have a certain amount of cash flow,
Right.
right? And then sometimes if they're held in a probate or a bankruptcy, right, there's money owed. So sometimes you have to come out of pocket for that extra cash, right, to get a free and clear title. So there are little things, you know, that a lot of people don't talk about, that somebody who's experienced, and when you're working with an experienced investor and they know that going in and they're not surprised by these little things, it makes it for a smooth transaction. And you
Absolutely.
can look at it holistically when you're running your numbers.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not as easy as people make it seem like
Right.
sometimes, you know.
Well,
Right.
what about, now I've heard about this, I don't know how true it is, but let's say I just want to dip my toe in the water, and my little baby toe, and are there groups out there where I could throw in with some other people who all want to put their baby toe in the water, and I don't want to just put everything I have into something and just see if that works for me?
Yeah.
Right. So from my end, as an agent, I do have several investors who operate that way. They have different groups, and they allow the different members of their group to contribute whatever they're comfortable with. There's typically a minimum. It could vary, but it doesn't mean that you have to go all in all by yourself. It could be a group of 2 or 10 or 20, depending on the property and the buy-in, for example.
And so then how do you profit from that? Then once the property sells, you just get back the same percentage of what you invested? Is that of the
would-
profit?
Yeah, usually. Well, usually you get your return on your investment first. That would be
Okay.
the first round, right?
Okay.
And then after it sells is when you do the second round. And that's
Okay.
the profit. Now, you know, you've worked with them. I mean, if you have 10 people, obviously it's less percentage.
Sure.
If you're only going to max a 10% return on that property, you know, if it's $100,000, then it's $10,000 a person, right?
Right.
Yeah, if it's less, then it's less. So
Okay.
it's all numbers.
Okay.
But that's definitely a way. Me, though, as an investor, I invest usually in my own or just 1 or 2 other partners. And I'm very selective.
Because you have cash. Right? Of course.
For sure, that's
I knew.
Yeah, well, yeah, being new, though, I think, yeah, you know, that is a good option. But,
Right.
you know,
At least to learn the first time, but after that,
yeah,
it's
you want to be able to go
control.
off on your own a little bit. And I think the best way is, though, to try to finance for a loan and do it all on your own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, then you don't have anyone else that you need to consult or
Right.
be responsible for or with,
Right.
you know?
Right. 'Cause
The
otherwise-
liability's lot
exactly.
less.
Right. If you have a partner, you have to discuss every decision along the way with the partners
Yeah.
Right.
versus, yourself, which again, if you're new, you're going to want
Sorry,
that.
guys. That's my doggy. My Amazon delivery has arrived.
Hopefully we got something good. But yeah, so if you're doing it for the first time or, to learn, it might be a good way. Again, it depends on who you're working with. If you have a great agent that has experience and can guide you along the way, then fantastic. But not everybody has that, or not everyone has the finances to do that.
Yes.
So then that might be a great way to break in. So, there's a few different ways to get to where you're going. Depends on what your goals are, right?
Okay.
So you kind of look at your goals, the end game, what you want, and then you can decide, how to start, how to get to where you're going. And as an investor, if you do it on your own, there are probably certain reasons why you do it on your own or with one other. I think you said you were selective.
Yeah, very selective.
Yeah.
Yeah, one or two other partners maybe, but usually one at a time
Right.
as well.
Okay.
But even if I don't have a lot of cash flow at that time, if I do select a partner, we look for something more affordable.
Okay.
100,000, 200,000, 300,000 instead
Right.
of the millions.
Okay, so you mentioned before that you actually have a lot of land, not just properties. What is the benefit? Is it because I mean obviously they're not making any more of it. I've always heard that
Sure.
location,
Yes.
location, and
Yeah.
they're not making any more of it.
Yeah.
But what is the goal eventually? That maybe I don't know where the land is, but is it that at some point something commercial or maybe even a development, a master plan community
All of
might
that,
say, hey, give me that.
All of that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's the purpose that I buy land, and I buy it all over the country.
Oh, okay.
And also I'm looking at buying stuff outside of the country as well. But it's just holding it, and you never know what's going to happen. It's kind of like a bank, long-term investment bank that has your money sitting there, if you have some extra money. I don't recommend you buy land unless you actually have some extra money. It's
Right.
always been a little bit of land that I bought has been about 10% of my income.
Okay.
So 10% I'll take to buy just that, and that's going to sit there.
Okay.
Because
until whenever.
sometimes what people don't realize is you'll buy land, but sometimes you have to make certain installment payments, right? There are different. It depends on if the land is incorporated or if it has utilities on it, So where it's a buy and hold, but it's an investment,
Yeah.
and you're going to get appreciation,
Eventually.
Eventually, yes. But you have to be thinking about these costs,
Sure.
Whether they're
Taxes.
taxes,
Property tax is the main
exactly.
thing. And
Yeah.
HOA,
Yeah.
sometimes the land might be in an HOA community.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's when you become more familiar with investments, then you can break out into that. But I know some people that just invest in land.
Okay.
They don't do anything else but that.
Okay.
And then later on, maybe they hold it for 4 or 5 years, and they'll sell it and, triple their money.
My grandpa, he bought like 50 acres near an airport. Or actually, there was no airport there. He bought this land and he thought something amazing was going to happen. And then near it, they built an airport. And then nobody wanted the land because it was too close to an airport.
Oh,
So
wow.
he still has this amazing land.
Well, I was going to say now,
sell it.
people used to think that way, right? But now they put so many of these
Businesses, yeah.
right
Commercial.
near, right, commercial, because
Yeah.
it's easy
Close to the
access to
airport.
Yeah, so maybe there's still hope for.
Maybe there's hope. I'll have to get involved in that.
Yes,
Yeah. Make some money.
right, exactly.
So, Gentille, is there any more information that you feel that me not being an investor, I didn't know to ask, that information we should really share?
Well, let's see. We went through getting the help. We went through the finances part, which is very important. Then we went through finding the deals and the properties and where to look, right? And I guess the last thing would be repair and rehabbing it. That's
Okay.
another cost
Yes.
that you have to analyze and evaluate before you even, buy the property.
Right.
But once you obtain it, you have to be able to fix it, and hopefully for a minimal. It depends. Everyone has a different taste, right, in style. So this is where you can be more creative in designing the house or the property and buying, the materials. Now, I'm very hands-on, and I'm hands-on on purpose because I know exactly what everything costs. I know what I want. I can buy something for $1 a square foot where, if you go to somewhere else or a designer or whoever, they will do it for $5 to $10 a square foot.
Right.
So this is where all the cost savings come in, basically.
Right. So
So
I
that's
imagine having been an investor as long as you've probably got a crew.
I do.
You've got
yes.
a crew of people. Hey, it's demo day.
Yes, yes. And I have two types of crews,
Okay.
I have the high-end, general contractor that does the really nice houses and stuff, and everything's a little more expensive. But then I also have my handyman crew that just does minimal work. I mean, no, they do the same type of work for a lot less. But I'm there micromanaging them, too, and I buy everything, and I take it over there. I'm like, okay, you do this and you do that.
Okay.
And I tell you that saves me a lot of money.
Right.
Whereas that same renovation would cost $100,000, it may cost me $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
having a team is paramount,
Yes.
really, in order to be able to make money, because you really can't pay retail for anything, and you have to know where to look, and you have to have the contacts, right? It's about
Right.
the contacts and the networking in order to make it work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you just walk into your store, big box store, anywhere else, you're gonna pay
Right.
top dollar. And
Absolutely.
your numbers, you're gonna blow your budgeting numbers out the door.
Yeah, but if you are that wealthy and you don't want to do
Right.
that work and you can want to pay someone and you can still make, as an investor, you can probably still make profit.
Right.
I'm just a lot more frugal
Right.
than most people and more hands-on, and that's why I save a lot more money than some people.
Well, I would say the more profit, the better.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it takes time. Time is money.
Right.
Time is money. So that's the
Absolutely.
difference, whether you do it yourself or you have your mentor, your team that
Yes.
can help with that. Because it depends on your situation.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But another point is also if you want to be a successful investor, another point is maybe looking to getting your own real estate license. Because I have my real estate license, I'm able to buy and sell these properties as an agent. So when I
Okay.
find the property, I'm not paying another agent. Nothing wrong with that.
Right,
but
right.
so I get that 3% as well.
Okay.
Or whatever the going rate is.
Yeah.
Right. Because it does vary. Anywhere
Right.
for, between
You're right.
2%, to 3%. There's everything in between.
Absolutely, but you're able to make a little bit more money as an agent, and you can find your own deals, and that's why I got my real estate license. In 2007.
So you were initially an investor, and then
Yes.
you became a real estate agent.
Absolutely.
Because you said, "Hey, why am I giving away this money? I could be doing that myself."
Exactly.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know, Alex, you I think started in real estate, and then you went into doing some investing.
Right. And actually, it was the same sort of thing. Like I was doing real estate and all of the legwork, right? And well, not as a professional. So then I decided, well, okay, let me. I love this.
Right.
And then I did. I got my license, and I wanted to obviously not only help other people, but it was beneficial to me. So I do both. And so I understand, and the goal, of course, is always to make the most amount of money that you can out of whatever project that you're working on, and that takes some time and some patience, some knowledge, experience.
Yes, a lot of patience, right?
A lot of patience. Yeah.
And this is another point too. Sometimes as an investor, now when the market is really hot, a buyer's market, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of foreclosures or bank-owned homes or whatever, short sales. I have bought properties sight unseen before, and what that means is I didn't get to look at the property, So I just kind of maybe did a drive-by, and just assumed the worst,
Yes.
without looking inside. And I've done that a few times, and I don't recommend anyone really doing this, especially if you're getting it to the first time. I don't
Right.
recommend, but if the market is really hot and you do have a little bit more money to play with, and you just kind of took a shot. I flipped a coin. Seriously, I went, okay. Bing, okay, I'm going to buy that one.
Right? But that brings another point. As an investor, right, you have to be slightly unemotional about certain things.
Absolutely.
There's that phrase, "Scared money don't make money."
Right.
So,
Right.
But I think if you're a successful investor the way that you are, if that was me, I probably would want to do it just for the thrill. Like, that sounds exciting to then go in the door and go, be all like, yeah, that was a smart move, or what the hell did I just do? But I know I can make this happen.
Yeah.
It's challenging, maybe a little more challenging, which is exciting.
Boy, if you want that excitement, absolutely. At least try it once or twice.
Right.
But make sure you have some income or have some money to back
Right.
yourself
Right.
up,
Right.
But, yeah,
Typically,
it's fun.
the uglier the property, the more excited we get, and the more opportunity there is. But you have to have the stomach for it, because sometimes there are surprises, and you have to be ready for those.
Absolutely.
So, So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question. So obviously you both are licensed real estate agents. When you're doing investing and now you're getting involved with redoing the insides of these homes, are there additional licenses that you guys have to do that, or just your contractors or those people have to be licensed to redo
To do it. Yeah, no, just the contractors have to be licensed and bonded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My handyman crew, sometimes not so much, but that's when I delegate, okay, you do this job.
Okay.
You know? So, yeah, no, we don't need any additional license for
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I mean, there are certain, of course, people out there who do hold like a GC, a general contractor's license, because they're going to take that one step even further, but typically not. You just have your crew.
Well, doesn't holding a general contractor's license help you get better deals on things too? Because you can get a contractor's discount or something?
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, I think you as a buyer, you know, any of us can walk into the store, whatever, Home Depot, Lowe's, and you can say, this is what I do, and asking for a discount.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe certain places,
Yeah.
you know, they may give a little bit
Or even
more.
with the contractors that I work with, I
Yeah.
can still be like, okay, I'm going to purchase this and then I just give them their name, and so they will pass along the savings to me as well. So.
But when you're doing this, you actually buy out of Lowe's and Home Depot?
Sometimes.
yeah.
Absolutely.
What kind of discount do they give?
they're having a sale.
Whatever.
You know?
Yeah. Sometimes you just use your charm a little bit. I may have an extra
I get
10%.
Yes.
Well, I get that off of military already. I'm halfway to being an investor.
Yeah, you are. But you know, there's a lot of people that don't do that. They don't ask, or they don't use coupons and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I think, you have to be a little frugal or mindful of every expense you make, and it's
100%.
okay to ask.
Yeah, don't leave money on the table.
Absolutely. The
I
worst
agree
someone
with
can
you.
say is no.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's it. So don't be scared.
Exactly. So overall, when you're considering investing, we can dive even deeper into some of these different avenues. But to get started, and break into the realm of real estate investing, those are the highlights.
Yeah.
Okay.
To start with, a good mentor, agent, understanding your
Finance.
numbers, your financing,
Right.
the rehabilitation costs, and location, what type of investor you're going to be, whether you're going to be, a landlord, or you're just going to be, flipping properties, and then real land versus brick and mortar, basically.
Right.
So
Now, I already know this answer for you, but when you flip homes, do you stage them first?
Not all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, very few, because remember, that's cost as well.
Right.
So yeah, I try to minimize
Okay.
as much as possible. If the property is good enough to just show on its own,
Right.
yeah, I don't need to stage it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where, so again, kind of where your expertise comes in, because I do staging.
Right.
It's something that I can work into from my aspect,
Right.
as well, as an added benefit. Just because sometimes people have trouble visualizing spaces,
Right.
and it helps. I mean, that's the reason that builders spend as much money on models.
Right.
So. Yeah, it's just, again, a cost-benefit analysis when you're thinking about it, your money,
Right.
And your return.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's so diverse. Real estate is so diverse. So when you decide to get into it, you have to figure out exactly which direction and which road you want to go on, or you can go on all of them, but you have to start with one first.
Okay, that sounds great. Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like we've learned a lot today, and there's so much more that we could learn. And I think maybe we should wrap it up for today, and maybe we'll come back in the future and then discuss, say I'm already an investor, what can I do to really step up my game? So I want to thank you, Gentille. How does anyone reach out to you in case they want to work with you?
Well, my number is 702-467-3131.
Okay.
I'm all over the internet, so you can definitely find me very easily.
I've seen you.
Can't be hard to find me. Don't say you can't get in touch with me, because I'm everywhere.
And Alex, how about you?
I'm kind of on the internet, so or they can call or text me, 702-592-5999. Call,
Perfect.
text, yeah.
All
always,
right.
always here.
Not past 9 p.m., please. Okay.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.